And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome everyone that can hear the sound of my voice to this week's edition of the Petty and Ill-Informed podcast, where we venture our petty and ill-informed opinions about a variety of topics. Joining me, as always, Tom, and as
Yep, I've
always,
made
no
it.
one else.
Yeah, I've made it. What? Why not?
Why not, indeed? So, on the eve of Storm Ashley, which is about to rock our world up here in Cumbria, I don't know if it's going to affect you down there in, I don't know, the south, London
Yeah.
area.
Well, I'm prepared to admit that I live in the county of Kent.
Oh, posh London.
Well, sort of.
You
I'm
got
actually good 50, 60-minute drive out of London.
people that live outside. It's like New York would be the best way of describing it to Americans. You know, each of the boroughs is different in New York: Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn. There's a fifth one, but I can never remember the name of it. But yeah, it's like that down in London. You know, you got Peckham, you got the East End.
You've got the city for London itself, the business district. You've got loads and loads of super ultra wealthy areas like Mayfair and Belgravia. And then you've got all the boroughs surrounding it. You know, Camden. It stretches almost as far south to the river as it does north. And I think the whole population of London is like 10 million or so. It might be even more by now. I'm not sure, but it's pretty amazing stuff. I mean, I grew up in Barnet, it was about 10 miles north of the central London, and it's just this massive, sprawling city, absolutely enormous. I think I think the biggest cities in the world are places like, you know, Mexico City, maybe Rio de Janeiro, and what's that one in Bangladesh? It's on a river, like most cities. Is it Dakar or Dakar or something like that? Ill-informed.
That's the point. We are ill-informed.
I think it's Dakar. I think it's pronounced Dakar. And that is an absolutely enormous city. I wonder. I'm going to have to look up on Wikipedia. What are the biggest cities in the world?
The biggest cities in the world. It's got to be well, geographically or people-wise.
People.
It's got to be India. There's got to be an Indian one.
List. Yeah, that's right. You can sort it by things.
Population density.
It's I wasn't a million miles out in all respects. Firstly, it's Tokyo, 37 million.
Tokyo?
Yeah. Then it's Delhi, 28 million. Shanghai, Sao Paulo, Mexico City. That was the first one I called remotely correctly. Cairo, Mumbai, Beijing. Then it's Dakar. Dakar is 19 million. Osaka in Japan, 19 million. London's way down the list. London is down at 38.
Anyway,
Seoul is bigger than London. Bangkok. There's a mate of mine was a behaviour manager at a school not too far away, and he came back lamenting there was one of his most difficult days at work. Excuse me. One of his most difficult days at work was when there was this craze going around the school where kids were saying to each other, "Have you ever been to Bangkok?" And they say no. They punch him in the nuts and say, "You have now."
That's genius.
He told me about this. I just burst out laughing. I pissed my pants with this one. And he said, "It's not funny. I've been dealing with this shit all day." And I thought it was hilarious. But proper fights were breaking out because of it. I shouldn't laugh.
And that's, you know, it's a funny thing that kids do. I mean, you should absolutely laugh.
You can imagine it in Waterloo Road or Grange Hill or something.
Waterloo Road. God, that show sucks.
Oh,
What?
I watched one season of it once, and that was enough. Oh, the hyper, over the top melodrama. It was almost as bad as Hollyoaks.
I can cope with the top drama. That's not what bothered me. What bothers me is the close relationship the teachers have with the students. I'm like, that is just so unrealistic. No teacher ever gives that much of a shit about the kids. All right.
It was a funny show, and not one I spent ages and ages investing.
Bear in mind, Tom is an actual teacher and didn't correct me there, so that just proves my point.
Didn't correct you?
Yeah.
Well, it's obvious. I mean, we have professional limits, big time, where we have to be extremely careful. We have you if you have a safeguarding concern, you report it properly and go through the proper channels. You don't become the teacher's best mate and the kid's best mate and give them your mobile number. That would be an incredibly dangerous and foolish thing to do. And there are teachers that in the past that has probably in the present, I dare say, that have been that foolish and crossed those lines by mistake with parents, with students. It does happen.
When I was a kid, we had this substitute teacher once with really large knockers that wore low-cut tops and used to bend over the male students' desks a lot. I didn't work out what she was doing until years later.
That's just really manipulative.
Yep.
And very unprofessional. And charming, huh? Oh well.
I mean, I got a good view. I'm not complaining. But...
Nah, it's.
But yeah, like I said, I didn't work out that she was actually doing it on purpose until years later. Proper bloody Father Ted moment, that where you just wake up one night and you're like, hang on a minute.
Is that what did Father Ted have revelations about the past that
Have you never seen Father Ted?
Not seen much of it.
There's a really funny episode called Speed 3 where you've seen the movie Speed, right? Or at least know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they do that with a milk float.
What they can't slow it down.
If the milk float goes below 5 miles an hour, it'll explode.
Okay.
That's the premise. Anyway, the reason that the former milkman puts a bomb on the milk float is because he was shagging all the women on his round. He gets fired, and Father Ted's apprentice, Father Dougal, takes over the milk round. And every time he goes to a woman's house, she's like naked or in a state of undress when she answers the door. And then at the very end of the episode, he goes to bed, and then he wakes up and he goes, "Those women were in the nip."
He goes, "What?
Those women were in the nip."
In the nip. What does that mean? Wanting sex?
Naked.
Oh.
You never heard that expression?
No, not that one. No.
Oh.
In the nip. In the buff.
Anyway, that's what I meant when I said a Father Ted moment. There's two ways to Father Ted. You have a moment like that, or if you've done something and then you ruin it trying to perfect it.
Sounds like when I tried to make my bloody record. How many thousand times I revisited each bloody song trying to get the mix just right. Some of the songs were mixed pretty well. Some of them are still very muddy, even in the finished version.
That's a good album.
Well, I'm very grateful for your continuing kindness. Thank you.
Well, so, you know me well enough to know that I wouldn't be like, "Oh, it's great." If it was shit, I'd be like, "No, it's shit, Tom. Give it up. You wasted your life."
If it was horseshit, tell me it's horseshit. I can take it. It's horseshit.
Well, it's not horseshit. It's really good.
That's Cat from Red Dwarf, obviously.
Ah, that's a good episode. It's Winnie the Pooh. Okay.
Wait, Meltdown.
Yeah, Meltdown. No, not Meltdown. Wax World.
I think the episode is called Meltdown.
The episode is definitely called Wax World.
Mm.
All right. You could be right. Let's Google this.
I've got the
Red
DVD right here.
Dwarf Wax
Season
World.
4, I believe.
Yeah, it's the final episode. No, it is called Meltdown. You were right.
Yeah. Yeah. Camille DNA. I used to be able to reel off every episode of Red Dwarf from seasons 1 to 8.
I don't really count 7 as a Red Dwarf season.
It's not. It's a funny one, isn't it?
I don't know why they decided to get rid of Rimmer, but it was a really bad idea.
Oh, I think Chris Barry just wanted out.
Hmm.
That was the problem. That was the problem. Chris Barry wanted out. He stuck around for a couple of episodes to see himself off.
I don't know why he didn't want to. What else was he going to do? Who honestly remembers the British Empire?
I do. That was really funny.
Or Spitting Image. Those are like the only 2 other things he ever did.
I didn't. Who did? Didn't know he was in Spitting Image.
Yeah, he did the voices for the puppets.
Oh, okay. No,
yeah, at least Craig Charles was in Coronation Street. Danny John Jules was in Lock, Smock and Two Smoking Barrels. Robert Llewellyn's been in basically every quiz show on Dave that exists.
Who was in Lock, Stock?
Danny John Jules. The cat.
Oh, is he the guy who runs the bar? Samoa Joe's.
He's the black guy that explains. Well, obviously he's the black guy. He explains about
Rory Breaker.
Rory Breaker, yeah.
The fat geezer's North opens. That's fucking it, says Fatty. Says fucking what? And he's just ordered a ping pong, an Aristotle of the ping pong tiddly of the nuclear sub, and he spits it all over Fatty, and then chucks a match in him and lifts him up like a flaming gas pipe.
And then he just calmly watches his show.
His
team's won as well. That's a great movie. I think Snatch is better, but Lock, Stock's still great.
I felt Snatch was too similar. I didn't like it because it was too much like Lock, Stock 2. I mean, to all intents and purposes, it was Lock, Stock 2. But I didn't like it as much. I didn't see why. There's a bit of a problem I had with Snatch. I mean, it just felt like so much more of the same without adding anything new. Not really.
Okay. Alan Ford as Bricktop was effing brilliant, first of all. Jason Statham, back when he was actually, less than a generic action hero.
Yes. Yeah, his career... I mean, I don't know. If I'm Jason Statham, I'm thinking, well, I'm making enough money. I've made it in Hollywood. Who cares if the movies I'm making are absolute crap? Same with Vin Diesel. They never got into doing anything of significance. I mean, cultural significance. But they rake it in and they're loaded. So who are we to argue?
I don't know. I genuinely think he should be put on war crimes for Crank High Velocity. Was
that a film?
Yes, that's a film.
What, and it's terrible?
It's literally the worst film I've ever seen in my life. You know how you hate Transformers 3?
No, it's Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen, and I've only seen the first 5 minutes.
You know how you hate that? That's how I feel about Crank High Velocity.
Well, what's wrong? Tell me, go on.
The premise of the movie is they've removed his heart, and the only way he can stay alive is by keeping his pacemaker electrified. So already, that's bullshit. And so he's just running around electrocuting himself for an hour and a half, and I'm just like, this is really shite.
He's running around electrocuting himself for an hour and a half?
Yeah, to keep his pacemaker fully charged.
Hey, it sounds like an episode of Bottom, like the.
Having trouble connecting to the internet.
Sorry, that's Alexa. Alexa's being a madam, and she needs to shut up.
Please, Tom, connect me to the internet.
Wait 30 seconds.
Oh, shut.
Use
Alexa,
the
shut
Bluetooth
up.
icon and connected to the internet. Plug in the Echo device.
This is brilliant.
Ugh.
My dad refuses to get an Alexa because he doesn't want the government spying on him. But at the same time, he takes his iPhone with him everywhere. Make that make sense.
I don't like them. I don't use them. I'm very old school. It's all. I'll look up songs on YouTube, but I still just love buying the physical media. So yeah, that film does sound like a pile of crap. Who's the main actor in it?
Jason Statham.
Right, and the film is called
Crank High Voltage.
Crank High Voltage. I don't think I've heard of it before tonight. Let's look it up on Rotten Tomatoes and see how lame they say it is. I think let me think of the worst films I've ever seen. One of the worst films I saw at the cinema, and it was painful, was Pirates of the Caribbean 3. Oh, that was purgatory. I was so bored. It really was right. I really at World's End, I spent an hour trying to bring Johnny Depp back from the dead by absurdly running from side to side of the ship, right at the South Pole or on the equator, or I think it was on the equator or something. They run side to side and they tip the ship upside down into the water just as the sun goes down on the equator, which magically flips the ship back up in the land of the living, not the land of the dead, or something absolute. And they spent an hour getting to that point.
That's your problem with that film. Not that the Squid Man was being controlled by a corporation because they had his heart in his hand.
I can't remember it.
Not that the fucking voodoo lady turned out to be a goddess, and after they freed her, she did absolutely nothing to help them. Your problem was them rocking the boat from side to side.
That I see. One of the only bits I can remember. I can't remember. The only thing I remember is that, and I remember them going round and round a whirlpool, firing cannons at each other for an absurdly long time, with them not actually getting any deeper and sucked down into this whirlpool. I just remember just wishing that time would just speed up and I would get to the end of this agony show of a boring film. It was just so boring. So I'd all the other things I've wiped from my memory. They went into the eyes and out the ears. I mean, it was rubbish. Yeah, it was absolutely rubbish.
It's not even the worst one. Have you seen Pirates 5? God.
No, I can't imagine. The Mark Kermode reviews of these were scathing. I do like listening to Mark Kermode, the BBC film reviewer. I always listen to his stuff every week. Every Friday, there's about 3 on his official YouTube channel. 3 or 4 films come out reviewed, and it's always interesting to hear what he has to say about them. But when he finds a film he despises and he just absolutely slams, it's hilarious. The latest one he did was, there's a film that's just come out. It's a big Megalopolis or something, I think it's called. Is it Martin Scorsese's meant to be his magnum opus, and it's just totally up its own arse. Apparently it's meant to be almost unwatchable in its incoherence.
Me and Nikki watched a film the other night on Netflix. The new version of Salem's Lot. That's what we watched. Wasn't terrible, wasn't great, but we had fun making fun of it.
Okay. I'm not big on horror. I think the only...
better than that god-awful one with Rob Lowe. I mean, Salem's Lot is just one of Stephen King's books that nobody ever gets right. And I don't understand how they can mess it up as badly as they often do. But
what's the premise of Salem's Lot?
Vampires.
Okay.
That's just it.
Okay, just vampires.
An author moves in. If you've read you've read a Stephen King book, you've read them all right? It happens in Maine somewhere. In this one, an author moves back to his hometown in Maine. A mysterious stranger named Barlow moves in, turns out to be a vampire. Starts turning the entire town into vampires until it's the author and a kid left alive, and they miraculously kill the vampire and drive off into the sunset.
Sounds very similar to Misery.
But
as in, if you're going to say, So, read one Stephen King book, read them all, see one film, see them all. The one that reminds me the most of is Misery.
It's just, like you've read one Stephen King book. It always happens somewhere in Maine, and it's always, one dude, his girlfriend dies, except for Bag of Bones. Must point that out. Bag of Bones, his wife and his girlfriend dies. So
I don't know though. I mean, it doesn't seem to follow that formula.
does it happen in Maine?
I'm not sure.
So,
I don't honestly know where it is set.
where does it book take place? Derry, Maine.
There you go.
I mean,
Okay,
don't
fair
get me
enough.
wrong. Most of his books are a good read, but they all take place in Maine somewhere, New
Well,
England.
It's I think I was never big on the books or films, but Misery I really liked. Kathy Bates and James Caan just brought that to life, kind of with compelling performances. You really believed. He's one of those ones you have to stop and remind yourself. The Kathy Bates character is I forget the character's name, but she just puts in she just gives it 100%.
I went through a huge Stephen King phase when I was a teenager. I read pretty much every book he had ever written up to that point. And
Okay.
I think At Pupil was my favorite. And they've made 2 movies about that, and they both sucked. So, Shawshank Redemption, right? That is undoubtedly, maybe The Green Mile, the best book, best movie adaptation of one of Stephen King's books. Do you know why that is?
No.
Because Shawshank Redemption is a short story in an anthology he wrote. It's only like 100 pages long.
Right.
So
Wow.
they couldn't mess that up too much.
It's in my all-time top 10. It's an incredible film. I absolutely love it. I think it's got the best story, the most well-conceived, tightly written story in fiction that I know. It's fantastic. All
right, so you wanted to moan about your day at work. So.
Oh yeah, God. So one last nod to a crappy film, RoboCop 3.
That's not a crappy film. That's just that's in. If that had been made in the 90s, that would have been straight to VHS.
Yeah.
I think it was actually.
It's just terrible. I mean, no trilogy plummets from, it's 2 gigantic even steps backwards. You go from one of the greatest science fiction films ever made that I think is an absolute masterpiece.
Alien, yeah.
Alien, no, RoboCop 1.
What? Alien's way better than RoboCop.
They're both absolutely fabulous, I think. Well, anyway, that rabbit hole aside, RoboCop 1, I think, is a great film. The second one is mediocre. And the third is absolutely abysmal.
Yeah, no, RoboCop 3 is terrible. Lola's dead, Gabby. She wasn't mentioned this week in EastEnders. EastEnders was really boring this week.
Yeah.
And they're just rehashing old storylines, and I'm not here for it at all.
Okay, well, I'll talk about my crappy day.
Yeah, talk about your crappy day.
I had a string. Everything on Thursday night, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Came home, and then we bought a couple of desserts in. Oh, cat! Sorry, the cat's bloody messing around with the wire. So I don't know if you can hear me or not at the moment, Richard. I won't be able to hear you for a few seconds till my TV sorts itself out because the cat ran over the wire.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, I can hear you now. Cat, stay away from the wire, please. So Yeah, I'd make a great fascist dictator, me.
It's like a cat's gonna listen to you. Like serious. Like,
most human beings don't. So, yeah, well, I don't know why the cat would bother. Right. So my crappy day. I got home. We'd bought a couple of desserts at Tesco. Mrs. and I. We had to go and pick up a prescription. I went and I scanned the club card. Hannah paid for it, and it seems that neither of us actually bothered to pick the bloody item up on our way out of the store. And we got home, got an hour or so later, went to go and find it, couldn't find it. Looked in my bag. Not only was the dessert not there, but my school laptop wasn't there. So I had, and I'm thinking, shit, what have I done with it? Where is it? How have I dropped it out my bag on the walking out of school or something? Have I left it in the car? And I searched the car for my laptop and for the bloody dessert. Neither of them could be found. Thankfully, I went into school, and when I went into school the next day, my laptop was there. I just somehow managed to walk out without it. Bizarre. But no laptop on Thursday night, no dessert. So I went, and then the next lame thing happened. I decided at some point to try and repair a couple of things with super glue. So I did what you do. You take the cap off and you turn it around and pierce the seal on top of the actual tube, and then you put the cap back on. And then I got it there and I squeezed it, and nothing came out. I squeezed a bit more and nothing came out. And then I realized it was all oozing out. I don't know what was wrong. I hadn't put the lid back on properly. I botched something, but it was all oozing out all over my fingers like shit. And I almost got stuck to the tube, and I'm trying to keep my fingers all apart, you know, in some sort of Spider-Man hand pose, and to keep them all apart and stop them sticking to each other, trying to wipe bloody super glue all over the counter. It's all over my hands, and this is really nasty stuff you don't want on you. And so I spent most of Friday peeling bits of super glue off my fingers. And then the last great fail was when to try and find something sweet to eat, I went into the cupboard under the stairs. That's where Hannah and I keep all our sweets and stuff like that. I pulled this plastic box out, and everything was a bit sticky. And I thought, what? And I smelt this. I thought, I recognize that smell. And my heart sank. See, my second favorite drink of all time is Lewis Hamilton's Monster Energy, the red, black, and yellow can. They've stopped making it. It's gone. And it doesn't look like it's coming back. My final can of this, Hannah bought for me for my birthday this past August at a cost of about 12 quid on eBay for a single bloody can. This can has somehow developed a leak. It's burst a tiny bit, and it's been eking some goo all over my sweets. And I can't imagine that this would be safe to drink at this point at all. So no more Lewis Hamilton Monster Energy for me ever again. Boo fucking who.
You shouldn't be drinking that shit anyway.
Thousands would agree.
Energy
But
drinks
it's
are
so
really,
nice.
really bad for you.
It's bloody delicious, this stuff. It's amazing. I've never tasted anything so nice, except for the only thing I would say I've tasted that is nicer than that is Johnny Walker Blue Label whiskey, and you're looking at 150 quid a bottle. I paid as little as 69p a can for this Lewis Hamilton stuff from Home Bargains in its heyday. Oh, how lucky I was. To buy a new can now on eBay would cost me £30. And it would probably have expired and gone past its use by date anyway.
That's gross. Why would you 30 quid for an energy drink?
Yeah, I'm not paying it. That's including postage and packaging from America. There's a few cans left stateside, and that seems to be it. Maybe one from Poland. Some of these cans are very empty cans, even. I mean, how
right? Okay, but like, just don't drink Monster. That's like even kids shouldn't be drinking it with their like boosted immune system. People of our age should definitely not drink that stuff.
I drink it I drink it sort of once I'll drink it. But maybe once or twice a week I'll have an energy drink.
Twice a week.
Yes.
You know they're made in sweatshops that are run by cows.
That are what?
Run by cows.
Cows.
Yeah, cows.
Literally cows.
Literally cows. I'm trying to make them non-vegan for you.
No. Sadly, of all the things they're not, one thing they are is vegan. I try not to drink them often. I could have had one today in going around Poundland in the middle of the afternoon. I thought, you know what, I really don't need one. I'm going to have some mineral water, and I did. Well, strawberry flavored water, but nonetheless water.
Yeah, flavored water. Peach. That's my favourite type of flavored water.
I always like the forest fruit ones, or the strawberries, or the raspberry flavored ones. Raspberry's a great flavour. Raspberry's always a better flavour than strawberry. Anything strawberry flavoured, like strawberry jam, is always just more sweet than flavour. Raspberry, now you're talking proper fruit.
I do love a raspberry. Decadent. Everyone always goes on about strawberries, but I'm like, nah, raspberries are way better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are. Anything raspberry. Well, back when I used to eat yogurt, raspberry yogurt was always better than strawberry yogurt.
I always like to try and eat a lemon wedge without shuddering.
A lemon wedge?
Yeah, without, you going, oh.
Yeah. It's one of those really full-on flavours, isn't it? It'd be like trying to do it with a really strong chili pepper. Probably not ill-advised. I'm sorry, the best ill-advised. Tom, talk sense, not posh crap that doesn't even make sense. Probably not best advised. Should we call it a night, mate?
Yeah, that sounds like a good stopping point. There will be no show next weekend. I'm not going to be in the country. I'm going to be in Ireland.
Okie dokie.
We will return in 2 weeks' time, despite the hopes of many. It's good night from me, and it's good night from him.
See you later, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.